So we are live. Hey everyone, welcome to our first stream of Rain Wild Chronicles. I have our regular, sorry about the, okay. I have Evie with me, our dragon, Realm of Elderlings princess, and I have two new co hosts with me today. I'll let them introduce to you. Go ahead, Chattie.
Hello, I'm Chattie. My channel is Chattie the Mad Chatter. And I'm very excited to have a place at the cool kids table and be this side of the chatting rather than going like this madly at different points. So it's very exciting. But mute me if I start talking too much though, Anita. You have the power.
I think this is the first and only time that I've ever been considered cool and called cool. This is very exciting.
It's the cool kids club. I've just been watching you all and just chatting in, and now I'm at the table. It's exciting.
KFox.
Hi, I am KFox or Kim if you prefer. I hypothetically have a channel that I occasionally sometimes upload to. And yeah, I like to read a lot of fantasy and science fiction, and I like to talk about it.
Nice. Okay, so all their channels are in the description. Please subscribe to them. They are wonderful people and they have amazing taste in books. We are still waiting for Pete and Derry, but let's go ahead and start. Your overall thoughts on both books, Dragon Keeper and Dragon Haven. Evie already read the full series, so I'll start with Chatty and KFox first and then come back to Evie. Sorry, Evie. Go ahead, Chatty.
I really enjoyed these. I didn't realize I was gonna. I think I went in with very low expectations because I feel like Derri prepped us. She was like, "Okay, we've just had Fool's Fate, and Fool's Fate still to this day stands as my favorite book of all time." So I knew going in, I was not expecting that. But I didn't realize how much fun it was going to be, exploring the Rain Wild and being back with proper dragon lore, where dragons were just a bit scary with Fitz and the Fool. Whereas here they've grown to love them, and there's been blood, sweat, and tears to get these things to hatch. And so it was just great to be back amongst all of that. And I really love the characters. I love the character arcs. I have very strong feelings about many things. Those are my thoughts.
KFox.
So it's funny because I have actually read The Rain Wild hypothetically, but it was a long time ago. And it was separate from any of the other realms of the Elderlings. And so I actually remember little bits and pieces, and they're starting to fall into place a lot better now because I actually understand.
Watch it.
Yes,
By the way, she's gonna be doing this, I'm sure. I'm actually getting to understand the context of a lot of things that I feel like inhibited my enjoyment of the series previously, and I will say that the first book, I definitely understand why Derry suggested to consider the first two one book, and I'm glad that we decided to do this discussion after the first two instead of just the first one, because I was very surprised at how little I cared about most of the characters after just the first one. Being that Hobb is such a wonderful character writer. And I think it's, even though I knew to kind of, I guess, lower my expectations or change my expectations, I guess would be a better way to say it. I don't think I changed them enough for the first book. But by the time I got to the second book, I was actually really enjoying it and really enjoying all the characters and everything.
Okay. What about you?
I actually loved it. Unpopular opinion time. I loved it much more than live ships. It may be YA-ish, but still, the themes Hobb explored touched my heart. I connected to all the characters. As I said during our life ships time, this Bingtown culture is very close to the culture I was raised in. These arranged marriage stuff and all. Even now, if you watch any Indian, South Indian movies and TV, you watch most of these tropes, the kind of characters Hobb explored. Oh my god, it felt like, I'm reading the life story of someone I knew personally. I have seen these things happen to my friends or somebody in my extended family. I mean every character, especially Ali's Hest. I mean, I can't tell you how many Hests I have seen. Okay. So I really loved it actually. I gave Dragon Keeper 5 stars and Dragon Haven 4.5 stars, but that's not fair because Dragon Haven only like first couple of chapters, 2 3 chapters. It's continuation of Dragon Keeper. Maybe if it was the same book, we wouldn't have got that slow phase in the middle. It felt like, we are following the same characters and same adventures, that dragon keepers, getting along with the dragons. But after that couple of chapters, it was very smooth for me. I loved it completely. Evie?
Yeah, I liked Dragon Keeper. I completely opposite opinion of KFox in that I immediately felt connected to the characters, especially Thymara and Elise, from the get go, from the beginning. And I was frustrated with some other characters, specifically Cedric. But once I got to Dragonhaven, I'm like, oh man, Cedric is actually like wonderful character arc just in those 2 books with Cedric, and it's so great. Yeah, and I think I think Derri kind of set the groundwork very well of like, don't expect, the Fitz books or even live ships or whatever. But I will say it is akin to live ship in that it's much more plot focused. And it's more about the story itself rather than the characters, if that makes sense. Not that there's not any character work, but it's just so good. And even though technically nothing happens in the second book, it is the best filler book on the planet. Like, it is so good.
I feel the opposite. I felt like this was like we just had in the screen. There we go. I felt like with Dragon Keeper, like we had to put in a lot of groundwork. It's like, right, guys, you need to know this about this character, this about this character, this about this one, and then finally we can get you all together with the dragons. And then I felt like the good stuff, the juice within Dragonhaven. I felt like this was all set up and this was all payoff, and I love payoff. Payoff is my friend. I love it when we get that bit. So for me, I was like, Dragonhaven, like, I just feel absolutely this shouldn't be 2 books. It should be one whole book, and it needs like the Sanderson George R.R. Martin treatment where you have it is a story and it's just split in half. I think that needs to be the same for this, because if you just have Dragon Keeper as a single story, it just feels very misleading. And the same with Dragonhaven, you just feel like, hold on, where's the rest of it? It's
yeah, and I will add that in regards to the kind of the young adult aspect of it, there are tropes there for sure, but just because there are young characters doesn't necessarily mean that it's young adult. I don't understand the crap that this series gets. Like, there are young characters, yes, they are frustrating, but what young character or young person is not frustrating? Like, I am pretty sure I was a frustrated piece of crap when I was their age. And it's just realistic, and I don't know, I just feel like the dynamic between the keepers and the dragons are just like, it's young keepers, young kids with young immature dragons, and it's just a vicious cycle of them feeding off of each other and their like hormones and volatility of youth and stuff like that. So
Okay. Paramita challenge accepted because I love this. I'll be behind you. Okay, since everyone is talking about Taimara, Neeru loves Taimara, and Penny actually liked her in Dragon Keeper, but doesn't like her in Dragon Haven.
Oh,
So let's
interesting. I'd
talk.
love to know why.
Okay.
Yeah, let's start with
Yeah.
Taimara. You want to go or? Uh, I mean, go ahead. I don't want to spoil anyone's thoughts. Go ahead on Taimara. Evie?
Yeah, so Thym- she is simultaneously the outsider while still being the point of view to get into the Rain Wilds and like the culture and the stuff that's going on there. So it's really interesting to see the world through her point of view, where she wants to be included, but she's specifically left out because of you know, who she is and how she was born. Um, it's just I liked her dynamic. She's very like not spunky, but she's very self assured, and she knows what she wants, even though she does have trepidations about some things. But she's very secure in herself, I think, um, at least comparatively. So.
She doesn't crack under pressure, and I love that.
Yeah.
And I will fight for her. I will. I am coming at anyone who is. I mean, no pressure, anyone, but I feel so strongly about how she was treated by certain characters in here, and she doesn't need me to fight for her because she has got this because she is a queen. And I hope Santara starts respecting that and recognizing that she's on the verge. But the amount of stuff she's dealt with and is just amazing. But before I go into that, I just want to say I really loved how we were expanded on little bits of Rain Wild that we got in live ships. So like the babies, like there was, I can't remember how it was put, but I know that Althea's sister, who I've totally forgotten her name because that's how much I care about her, I believe had one of those. Did she have one of those children, or was it her mum?
I think
They like mentioned that there was a child that was taken away.
I think it was her mom, but
I think it was kind of mentioned that almost every childbearing woman in Bingtown had gone through that
it was
regardless. So I feel like it was specifically mentioned maybe Kefria, but it wouldn't surprise me if it had happened to Veronica.
Yeah. And so I just found it fascinating that now we get to see what it was like for some of those children that were kept. And I thought that was fascinating and really like, I just thought it was amazing looking at that, like, what's the word? Just that whole kind of concept that like everyone thinks that you shouldn't be born. Like it's awful. It's so horrendous. But I found that approach really interesting, and that linking into the whole like making their own rules once they've left the Rain Wild. I just loved all of those themes.
I think
and I was sad
in the Pete's ready to pop on, by the way.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see. You're late, Pete, but you're right on time because
Look, I had lunch with my mother, so
listen. As I said, you know, as we were explaining, you can have lunch with your mom anytime. Okay.
Well, to be fair, I was going to have lunch with my mother before I got the date for this live show. So,
yeah, you know, whatever.
Okay. I like moms, so I will not say anything. But I mean, but you're right on time, Pete, because I want to know your perspective, because I have seen, I mean, I love Taimara. I mean, also because what she's going through, her relationship with her mom, how her mom tries to control her. And it's not just that. I love the themes Hobb explored in Taimara's POV, how she is pressured to be in relationship with someone, uh, you know that part actually, it 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 was so realistic actually. everyone who has gone through understand that. And also Derry and Pete, Pete and I were in a stream along with Derry, and Derry talked about how books are social frameworks where we can
Mhm.
see others perspective, though we don't have that experiences personally. So though not everyone may have gone through what Taimara is going through at the time, but it is a good social framework to understand how some women are forced to comply with what the guys around those women want. It gave us a good perspective. I'm actually surprised to see a few Goodread reviews where they gave this book like 1 star or 2 stars. At the same time, in reviews, they wrote that I hate Thymara's POV. She does not think other than, the only thing she thinks is whom to. They use the F word, but I can't say it. Whom to do it? That's all it is. I hate it. I mean, I was so surprised, that she was thinking that because guys around her were forcing her to make that decision. Hobb
Mhm.
explored that theme so well, and I can't. And I was so shocked to see that. Those people are hating her for that. Pete, I need to know your perspective because I'm putting you on spot because you are the only guy here.
Um, so
You represent all men now, Pete. Go.
that's tough. I'm not like other guys. So I think with Thymara specifically, like I think talking about like Thymara and Gref's kind of Gref's antagonism. Um, I can guarantee you, and I think this is portrayed really well from a non POV perspective of just like, Thymara was thinking a lot about, the do. So were all the other guys. Like they're all horny teenagers, and that's how horny teenagers act. And I think it's realistic. I don't think it makes it any less kind of annoying because there were a few times where like Thymara was peeping on Greft and Jared, and then they were talking about doing Dragon Parks. But because of the oh my gosh, they're naked thing that Thymara was surprised at, that completely whiffed over her head. And to me, I see that as reasonable because walking in on somebody in such an intimate moment is very, especially when you haven't been exposed to that before, can be mind like it freaks you out a little bit. And I think that's realistic. I do think that part of that is because part of the reason Thymara always thinks about that partially is how Greft controlled the narrative. Because Greft was very much like, hey guys, we can make our own rules and we can do all this thing. And then he immediately focuses on, hey, mating. Because that's what, appeals to all those horny guys. So there was a little bit of just Greft kind of pushing that. And that's part of the reason why that was on her mind a lot. I did find it irritating sometimes. I was like, oh my gosh, you need to just take a step outside yourself. But like, they're teenagers. It's to me, it's understandable. Is there any like other specific things? Because there's a lot that I could touch on, but
And it's fresh from Pete's perspective because you just finished it like 5 minutes ago, right?
Yesterday. But yeah,
He read almost entire book yesterday, around 400 pages, 420 pages to be
Wow.
exact.
I had a lot of time yesterday. So
Okay, before moving on from Taimara, KFox.
Um, well, specifically from the whole relationship and like, that sort of perspective. Also thought it was very interesting how it was sort of a dynamic of um, the whole thing of how they had been grown up literally their entire lives being told you cannot do this, like 100% never, and like seeing how the different people respond to that, because I think that part of Thymara's surprise whenever coming across Grefton and Gerd, whatever, was that it just hadn't even occurred to her, because she was literally told her entire life, like, no, this is not a possibility for your future. You cannot do this. And so I think that that was kind of a very world shattering moment for her, in combination with just the general surprise and the lack of exposure. And I think that that's another reason why it kept coming up, because it was literally part of the framework where their lives were based. Like, they're not supposed to reproduce because it will create more, like, sickly children that might not survive. And that's, and it's a very gray area, messy situation, because it's like, of course we, like, from that perspective of these children might not survive, or if they do survive, it'll be a short, painful life. You can see why the rules are in place, but on the other hand, it just gets into like some icky, like, putting restrictions on who is allowed to reproduce. And it's a very interesting and very, I guess, nuanced topic. And I feel like it is very bold to take something that is generally categorized as YA and explore something that, I guess, potentially messy with essentially like one of the main characters. And I really appreciated Thymara's perspective of it, because it does show just how, I guess, complicated that issue is.
Yeah, I mean, to give Paromita a little history here at the same time to add to KFox point, Paromita Thymara's, I mean, Rain Wilds, when they are marked heavily, those kids actually, they kill those kids, they live in the wilds. But Thymara's dad actually, he brings her back, but her mom doesn't want her. So she was never accepted by her mom. That's also the reason Thymara was so against um, relationships or reproducing, because she had gone through her entire life not being accepted by her own mother. So she had the trauma to deal with. So for me, actually, it is very understandable, and Hobb did that brilliantly. It may have felt YA-ish, but it is, as if you look at that as an entire team, it is not YA, that's reality. Actually, people go
Yeah.
through that kind of stuff regularly.
Yeah. And
I think
there,
with sorry, go ahead, Evie.
oh no, I was just gonna say there's also the cultural aspect of repression going on. Because if you to kind of switch it to from Thymara to Jerd, once they're out of the Rain Wild, or not out of the Rain Wilds, but out of the town that I'm blanking on.
Kasarik.
Thank you. Yeah, once they're out of there and they're kind of going their way, and they've got the dragons, Jerd, and pretty much the rest of the keepers are like, we're no longer repressed anymore. And Gruff's like, oh yeah, we make our own rules now. And as much as I was frustrated with Jerd, the scene, and I double checked on Google to make sure that I'm not confusing and jumping ahead in books. It's in Dragonhaven. This scene of when she got pregnant and then her labor scene. That is the hardest scene that I've ever seen, that I've ever read. It's one of the hardest, I should say. And it's her reaction to that, to getting pregnant, to having the pregnancy, to the labor and delivery, was just really, really powerful in a way. And it's just I don't know where I was going with that, but I just, that scene sticks out.
I'm happy to piggyback off that and take it a little bit more. So from what you were saying about with it culminates, like that kind of idea of the consequences of, like, there's rules in place, and on one hand there was kind of like the suppression, but on the other hand there was, you know, the creation of life. And I don't want to say too much because I'm aware that we haven't like classified it spoiler territory or anything like that. So I'm just not saying too much.
It's okay.
But
Go
it was
ahead.
like
I'll put
that
the banner.
scene. Are we going in?
Might as
Sure,
well.
go ahead.
Let's go.
Okay. Spoilers. So like the kind of the culmination of one of the themes of making your own rules and society, and you know, like KFox was saying about the messy situation of who gets to choose who mates and who doesn't mate. One of the rules that was in place that Thymara clung to, I like how that was kind of like really pulled back, because to start off with you think, oh, maybe she's just a little bit of a prude, maybe she's just too oppressed by this, but when you start getting down to that point as like, people like us have not given birth, and we're thinking of the hard life of Rain Wilds. I'm imagining there is quite a high death rate in giving birth to people who are more human than dragon. When you've got these people that to society shouldn't even exist then going to give birth, the chance of them dying is huge. So like one of Thymara's main reasons about not wanting to have sex and be pressured into having sex is the consequence. She could have a baby and she could die. And I'd say that's a very strong reason about not wanting to have sex, and basically shut down any of the boys' reasons for pressurizing her. I mean, one, no one should be pressurized into sex. Thank you very much. Two, it's like, she could die. Are you literally not listening to what she said? She could die. And then you get that really harrowing scene. Massive spoiler, guys. Jerd gives birth and it is a stillborn baby. And that was really hard to read. And there were some very harsh, I'd say, truths for this particular world. So it does, be careful because it does veer on slut shaming, which felt uncomfortable. But in this particular world, the truth was, girls, you are going to be left with the consequences, and there is literally no one else to pick it up.
And
There was not a single main
and what's her face was like, no, all the girls are gonna stay and watch this and stay watch what happens.
And Belin, sorry, Evie. Belin, her name is Belin, right? She made a great point that I have a husband and Alice has left Rin. We have men to help us. You don't have that. So you have to live with the consequences. She outright tells them. That was really very impactful scene, actually. I loved that scene. Go ahead, Evie.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, actually, now that you bring that up, you know, there was a lot of, I guess animosity is probably not the right word, but like a lot of frustration, and disgust with Jerd because she was basically not carrying her weight. She was expecting everyone to do everything else for her during her pregnancy, like, oh, I'm pregnant, oh, I can't lift something or whatever. And if I recall correctly, I think Thymara or somebody else says something either to her or something about her situation of like, if she's already expecting everyone to do for her, to take care of her at this stage, she's not going to be able to take care of a child. And it's just, yeah.
And there was not a single male keeper in that birth scene. And as soon as they saw them, they fled. And it's like, you all wanted to sleep with Jerd. Most of you did. Where are you?
Yeah.
Gone.
And sorry, everyone in the chat made great points, actually. Chadia, Neeru, Emily, Bridget, everyone. I mean, Thymara has such fantastic dialogue. She talked about that point. Emily mentioned that actually in one of her comments. She talked about, we did not have anyone, doctor or midwife, and you want to add baby to this situation. We have to live with that consequence. Thymara has fantastic. I mean, that's such a realistic character. I loved that character, actually. I applaud Hobb for that character.
And I think so. Coming at this,
representing all men,
and my frustrations with all men. I can second this, Senior Channing. This is
Channing,
absolutely.
Right, go.
Channing, Channing, sorry, Pete.
Go ahead.
Channing, you're also our male representation in chat. Please add your time or opinions. Pete, go ahead.
So I thought what Bellin was saying about, hey, you don't have a man here with you, was that part for me was triggering in its own way. Like, as like, this is one of the things I have a frustration with about our world as well, is that a lot of people in certain places are a lot of young men are encouraged to do how we say pump and dump schemes, to put it very lightly, and that is a tragedy. I think it's that if there's one thing that I could fix about society, it would be that, like, okay, you get a girl pregnant, you should be there for her. Like, they were talking about how Jerd wasn't pulling her own weight because she was pregnant. Well, guess what? If Greth got her pregnant, which I know there was like some wishy-washy about who actually did it, but like all of the people that could have been her dad, could have been the child's dad, should have been helping her and helping her pull her weight more, because they're responsible for that. So that was like,
I think Gref pretty much was like, oh, she's not putting out, so I'm gonna go after Samara now. So
it's
just really
the just hey, look, what Bellin said really echoed with me about that. Just like, there should be a man there, like if like, because the men are like, you're responsible for your seed type of deal. I know that sounds kind of weird, but like
it takes two to make a baby.
Exactly, and you should be willing to help.
On the flip side, it does bring up I get it. I understand from the context and point of the world and stuff like that, but it does bring up a interesting general counterpoint of the challenge of the nuclear family. Like, you don't have to have a nuclear family to have a family, to have to raise a child. Jerd could have done that on her own.
Mm-hmm.
She had no choice. Like, she didn't even. Yeah. Basically, was just like, oh, whoopsie daisy, I got pregnant. Like, she wasn't actively trying to get pregnant because she wanted a child. She was just like, I enjoy sex, which is another thing of like, all she's doing is enjoying sex. That's all she's doing. Which is not a bad thing. Like, whatever.
It's not a bad thing, but there's also that you should understand the risk that you're going into.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, take steps to ensure that other things are not going to happen. We don't have that stuff. What was I going to say?
Nuclear family.
Yes. So, which I think is I mean, not to spoil anything, but it's interesting to see how that theme kind of expands later on.
Yeah, and like, I know I was going on about that, kind of went into the whole nuclear family thing. I don't think, like, particularly in America, we don't necessarily always have enough to. Trying to think of how I want to phrase this. I think if you look at like Census Bureau facts and stuff like that, two parent households tend to have better outcomes for the child. Emphasizing tend to, and I think that the more adults you can get involved, more adult, specifically male in this instance, because there is a lack of male role models in our society today. But like, the more adults you can have like as role models and actively involved in a child's life, the better. And when it comes down to it, like, two incomes tends to be better than one, because that allows more freedom for each parent to have a little bit more time to spend with the kid and not always be working. And like, there's some other economic stuff going on in there, because like, the craziness of a parent having to have two part-time jobs or two full-time jobs in order to support a child is ridiculous. Like, there's so many things I could actually really go into about that frustrate me about our society. But
yeah, I think the Jerd draft situation is a really good parallel to actually Thaimara and her parents' situation, where her mom wanted to just get rid of her, but her dad stepped up and was like, "No, I'm actually going to take this child," and he basically is the one that raised her.
He was great.
Yeah, so great. At some point, I definitely want to talk about Cedric and Rapskull because Relpdeath, sorry. Also Rapskull, but still.
I love Rascal. We'll get there at the end actually because I want to gush about them. But let's move on from Taimara. So, are you ready for Alice and Hest?
Are we doing Lefrin in there too?
Okay. I mean, however you want. There is no order. Go ahead.
I mean, I hated Hest from the very moment that I saw him. I was nervous that because he is at the very least, well, no, he's gay. He's a gay character. He has no sexual interest in Elise whatsoever. I was nervous that his portrayal as a gay man was going to be detrimental and kind of stereotypical of being like, what do you call it? Just very predator-like, of just taking advantage of Cedric as this young man, and I'm like, oh no, Robin Hobb. And then thank God, because he's just a dick. He's a despicable human being, and I hate him so much. I hate him more than Kyle.
I was going to wonder, where is he on your hate scale?
I hate him more than Kyle. He's the worst.
Can it?
But then we have like
Kyle.
Yes. No. Hest at the very top for me. I hate Hest.
Oh no, Kenneth. No one can be more hateful to me than Kenneth. Hest is just under him.
I hate Hest so much. Because he's such a freaking narcissist, and the difference between Hest and Kyle for me is Kyle does not realize what he's doing. He's trying to do, like, the things that he does, he genuinely thinks he's taking care of things, and he's trying to make things better. By, excluding Althea and stuff like that. Hest knows that he's being manipulative. He knows that he's being, just so scummy and just purposely, deceitful of everyone around him and controlling, and I hate Hest so much. Anyways, but Elise though, not long, a couple of months prior to reading Dragon Keeper, I read A Natural History of Dragons, so it was perfect timing in that with those two reads, because I felt like Elise was another Lady Trent, and it was fantastic, and I loved her. Was there love at first sight, insta love with Elise and Lefrin, or at least Lefrin with Elise? Yeah, but it's a case of I will accept this one case of insta love because Robin Hobb.
I didn't find it insta love.
I found it insta interest. I don't think it was love, but it was definitely like an attraction. Really, really pretty, and I think that made it a lot more reasonable for me. It wasn't just like, I'm gonna worship the ground you walk on, please step on me type of the love, which was great.
I have a popular opinion, but I'll let Chattie and KFox finish about Hest, and then I'll talk. Go ahead, Chattie.
Okay, so what I really appreciate from Robin Hobb, so touching again on what Evie mentioned about the concern about what Hobb was doing with her gay characters. Like, I got to the end of Dragon Keeper and was highly concerned about the gay representation in her book. And then as soon as we hit Dragonhaven, I was like, oh, thank God, well done. And I love how we have been given this emotionally abusive relationship, both a heterosexual one and also a homosexual one as well. And you do hear of young gay boys who are taken advantage of and forced into relationships before they are considering whether or not that's what they want. And the more you unpick the layers of Cedric and how Hest had, it felt like grooming. It felt very much playing. It was like massively controlling, abusive. And the more those layers were unpicked, the more clear that was what Cedric was going through. And I felt so delighted every time like another like layer fell off and he was able to recognize that his relationship with Hest was not healthy. And he had other people treating him so much better and he could compare that. And obviously we have Elise and her terrible marital relationship, and just it's so horrible. It was the gaslighting that was just the worst, where he was turning it on her. And I am so pleased that she had I don't know how she did it, because I would have been a broken person in the corner rocking, but she had the strength to still be like, the contract, you promised me dragon scholarly stuff, including a trip to the Rain Wilds, and I am taking that marriage contract and going with that. And I'm so pleased she had the strength to do that.
KFox.
So for me, I feel like one of the biggest differences between stuff with Kenneth and stuff with Hess, just comparing the two real quick, was that with Kenneth, we got his perspective. We were inside his head as readers. And we had no question of his motive whenever it came to things, because we read it. We read inside his head, you know? And because of that, I feel like I felt a lot more strong emotions towards Kenneth. But I feel like with Hest, we are left to infer a lot more, especially at first. But sorry, my cat is going crazy in the background. but especially at first, because at first, you know, his first appearance is making this agreement with Elise, and she's like, "Oh yeah, that sounds fine. That sounds reasonable." But then, especially as we get to see the history of him with Cedric, then you get to see more and more of just how harmful he is to the people he's in relationships with. And I kind of wonder, if we got his perspective and if we were inside his head, would he seem just as bad or even worse? Because it seems like his motives are just basically the same as Kenneth, only with Kenneth there was like a lore reason he was that way, and with Hest he's just kind of that way.
Kind of a little bit mustache twirly in a way.
Yeah, and there are people like that. Like, I won't lie, I personally find Hest worse, but that is because I literally knew someone who looked like him based on the description in high school, who dated one of my best friends and acted this way. And so I have a personal sort of thing about Hest, and he was the one character that I remembered from my previous read through that I actually remembered his name, because that's how much I disliked him. But so I feel like, but I do wonder at the end of the day, if we were inside his head, would he seem even worse to us? But yeah, and as far as Elise goes, I love her. I thought she was great. A bit naive, but so was I at, like, you know, her age, especially at the beginning, because she's in her early 20s, late teens at the very beginning, and then she kind of gradually gets into her mid 20s or so by, I think, Dragonhaven.
And she's also like,
She was 20.
very
She was 20 at the beginning.
Okay, yeah, and I was definitely very naive whenever I was, you know, late teens-ish, early 20s-ish. So I feel like I really identified with her in that way.
Yeah, and she was, I felt, sorry, Pete.
You're good.
She was also very sheltered, and I felt so connected to her in that her own family was constantly like not berating her, but like nitpicking her, like
Yes,
you're
like her
too freckles and like, oh, you're not
Mhm.
pretty enough or whatever. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
like her, that she was able to maintain or even have the self-esteem that she has. Like
Mhm.
she channeled that and be like, okay, yeah, cool. Maybe I do have freckles. Maybe I am not, considered pretty by my family, but I like this like the dragon lore, all this history. Like she's channeling, I don't know, maybe her frustrations, maybe her like her kind of doubts, and channeling all that energy into something constructive and a passion for her in a way. So which I greatly admire. Love about
Pete?
Um, I think Hest and Cedric, and then Cedric and Carson, and that kind of like evolution. I really appreciated the like what you were saying. I think Kat, you were saying about the or Kat or Chatty when you were talking about the peeling back of the layers of Cedric realizing, oh, this was an abusive relationship. Oh, this isn't normal. I don't I don't necessarily deserve this because like Hest absolutely took advantage of this isolated young guy who didn't feel like he could open up to anybody, that had to hide this thing because it was so looked down upon except in the shadows. And that was very heartwarming to see that kind of gradual revelation of that just like it was really good just to be like, okay, how can it, going back to like my kind of thing of just like, okay, how can I help people with this if it comes down to it, of just like, okay, how what is this, what is one way that this process could go, of just like seeing how you can peel back those layers for somebody, of just like, look, this is actually not normal. And some of that involves being loved yourself and then accepting that this better thing is actually feasible. And then peeling away the really powerful thing was peeling away his idealization of Hest, of that whole thing, like this ideal Hest of like, oh, when I get money, Hest will be like, oh my gosh. And that him realizing, oh wait, that's Hest will never be like that, because he could never be like that, because that's not who he is. And that was a really powerful moment for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Cedric realizing bit by bit, I mean, he realized at the end that no matter how much money he um, earned, no matter how much rich he became, Hesh would never appreciate him. He finally realized at the end. That was brilliantly done. And coming back to Alice and Hest, I may have unpopular opinion. I completely agree with you all that he's horrible person, narcissistic, and predatory. But at the same time, I found him better than the Hess I have seen in live or in Indian TV, because here Hess told Alice actually what to expect. I mean, not everything, of course, not marital rape part, but he told that he doesn't love Alice. It's a convenient marriage beforehand. He did not make her believe that, it's going to be a happy marriage, or they're going to be best friends or something like that. That because of that, I found him a tad better than this other Hess I have seen, because these other people, maybe it is fictional or even in real life, it's an arranged marriage of India arranged marriages are common. They act like nice guys in front of their family and all, they get married, and after marriage they treat their wives like that. This girl will have no idea, and she lost her life. So after seeing those marriages and those people, I uh, how to put it? I did not find him the most horrible guy ever. Yes, he's bad, but he's too normal for me, if it makes sense.
That's really upsetting, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. So Uh, Yes, I completely agree with the chat. Chadia, Penny, and Emily. Yes, that was rape, both with Alice and both with Cedric. With Cedric, he actually physically abused him, sexually abused him, emotionally abused him. I am glad that actually by the end of Heaven, as Pete mentioned, peel after peel, Cedric realized that actually a lot of credit goes to Carson and Relfta because of their actual because of them. Cedric realized that with Carson he realized the somebody accepting him without any clauses, somebody willing to love him without any expectations. And with Relfta he has seen actually Relfda, I mean, I think Pete made that point. I don't remember the power of forgiveness. Relfda forgave him even after Cedric stole her blood. So he realized that he found. I mean, it was really brilliantly done by Hobb. I
Mhm.
really appreciated for that entire arc. I mean, I really hated Cedric in some moments where he judged Alice for loving left teenagers, but he did not help falling in love with Carson. I mean, later he realized that, but during those moments, I really hated him. Oh my god, such a selfish fellow I felt.
Well, I think he 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 had that reaction before the conversation that they had, Elise and Cedric had about Hest, right? Like he was all judgmental, like, oh, you shouldn't, have be flirting with Leftrin because you're married or whatever. But then not Hest, Cedric and Elise have like a conversation about Hest, and I think that's when like there are no barriers in place, and he's more understanding and accepting, I think, of Elise's relationship with Leftrin.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I would say that that's. I think that that feels like it's accurate to me. Of
Mhm.
just like
I can't remember the exact timeline.
Hmm.
yeah, because
I
there were
think
like 2 or 3 conversations that Cedric and Elise had to uncover everything.
And also, a thing that Cedric brought up time and again was Elisa's reputation, which I like looking at that now. We're like, oh, like in our current society and stuff, it's hard to, I guess, empathize with just how much a reputation meant in
Mhm.
certain societies, like in our world in the past. Evie, I know that you love Au- Austin, and I've read a few, and I guess if anyone else has, then I feel like that is much clearer if you kind of know more of the Regency era type stuff. But I feel like that is also something, I guess, to consider. Not necessarily defending Cedric in the way that he acted, because I do think that he was crappy. Um, and I do think that a lot of it was response to how Hess treated him, because whenever there is manipulation happening, it's really hard to tell how much of it is your thoughts and how much of it is sort of implanted, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that
he was
doesn't make
wearing
it.
his What Would Hess Do bracelet for
Yeah,
most of Dragon Keeper, if
exactly.
not all, and then he started to take it off in Dragon Haven.
Exactly. And again, does that excuse the behavior? No. But it kind of, to me, makes it understandable, even if it's not excused, if that makes sense.
Well, I think the dynamic between Cedric and Elise is, I think, if you take Hest out of it, Cedric truly does care about Elise, and he wants to protect her, um, in any way he can, and if he can kind of protect her reputation, um, because that would be something that would be like outwardly known. I guess, what am I trying to say? So she he can't live his life outwardly and in society because it's, you know, two men together is looked down upon in Beantown. And so I think he wants to protect Elise to make sure that the life that she leads and that people see her lead is not marred.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Evie, I want to add one point. I would have agreed with you if Cedric did not plan for eloping with Hest. He looks like he cares for Alice's reputation and all, but at the same time he planned to elope with Hest. It looked like he cared for Alice. He wants Alice to be back with him to Bingtown because otherwise Hest will blame Cedric for letting Alice run away. Hest reputation will go down and Hest will blame Cedric. That's why he wants Alice to come back. It was very conflicted. Some places he looked like he cares for her. At the same time, it's skewed with his selfishness.
I think that's one of the things, though. I connected Cedric quite a lot with Wintro. So with Wintro in Live Ships, I loved him at the beginning, but by the end of the book, the end of the trilogy, I do not like Wintro at all. Cedric, I felt like I could like, and throughout all of Dragon Keeper, I was like, please let him realize what is going on. Let him build his friendship with Elise. Let him come back to the light. He's in the dark side. Let him come back to the light. I was wanting this throughout the whole of the book. And then we got to the end of Dragon Keeper, and I was like, oh, okay, he's going down the tragic spiral. That's it. He's gone. Cedric's dead to me. But Hobb pulled it around in Haven, and I love that happened because I really did not think that was going to happen. But Cedric went on so much, not just like his relationship with Hest, but also like his relationship with Elise and his relationship with Pelda and that whole soul-searching situation. And he had to like apologize to Repelda, to himself, and to Elise. And I forgive Cedric and I love Cedric because he had that conversation with Elise where he confessed to her. And that was hard for him and he didn't want to do it. But like Carson said, like, I can't forgive you for something that you need to be forgiven for by someone else. And so Cedric knew that for him to be completely happy in his relationship with Elise, with their friendship, and for him to be able to live with himself again, he needed to come clean about how from the beginning of Elise's relationship with Hest, he was involved in that. He was involved in the duplicity. He was involved in what happened. And as much as like he could say, oh, Hest, be kinder to Elise, let her have this, let her have that, he was still aiding and abetting Hest in his treatment of Elise. And it wasn't until they had that beautiful confrontation moment. And I loved how Hobb dealt with it, how they had that moment, how Elise was pissed, rightly so. And then they had to work on it. And then they had that moment together with the locket where they burn the picture and they burn the hair. And then they have the friendship hug. And it's like, we're here. We have come full circle. I can embrace Cedric.
By the way, I just want to point out, Carson, he's great. Like, all around,
my God.
fantastic character. He's the Jiminy Cricket. He's like the model boyfriend. Like, I love him, and he's great.
Yeah, I mean, he does not force Cedric to do anything. At the same time, he just make a statement and leaves. I mean, I loved him in that moment. And you know, when Cedric told him about Liftrin, he does not, hide or anything. He just goes and confront Liftrin. I mean, he's a fantastic character. I loved Larson. I mean, Carson.
Yep. The whole like confronting Leftrin was like a great scene for me. I'm like, all right, cool. You confronted Leftrin. Can you tell this to Cedric, please?
Honestly, I feel like Carson is definitely, at my current point in life, one of the ones that I relate with the most because he just says things. Like, he's just like, this is how I feel about things, and this is what I think about things. And I'm not going to leave any gray area. I'm not going to be passive aggressive. I'm not going to, like, expect you to understand what I'm saying. Like, I'm going to make it very clear to you. And I really appreciate him as character for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's indicative of his comfort in himself. He not hiding that he's gay. He's very open about it.
Mhm.
And he's very secure in himself. He's
Mhm.
secure that he works on a barge and that he's rough and he's tumble, but that doesn't mean that he has to subscribe or kind of fall into those stereotypes of what a barge man is. I think if I recall correctly, Cedric is kind of surprised that of some of the things that Carson does and says, and which I mean, let's be honest, I was too. And he's so secure in himself. He's so confident, and he knows who he is and what he wants, but he doesn't enforce it. He doesn't enforce it on anyone. He's the epitome of of non-toxic masculinity. So
And we see that great role model in how he is with Davy. Like, one of the first things he did was like trying to be like, look, Davy, let me lay the law down to you, and then talking to Cedric about, look, Davy really likes you. Can you make sure you're nice to him and be careful to him, but don't like lead him on because he thinks he's in with a chance.
He also likes him, Cedric, but he doesn't say that actually. He understood that Cedric has someone back home and he backed off and he only talked about Davy. He was such a wonderful person, actually. Oh my God. Anyway, it's been an hour. We are only talking about not even half the characters. We did not even talk about dragons.
So many
Okay.
characters in this book.
Yeah, I know how wonderful it is. I don't understand the hate it gets.
can we just at least talk about Cedric and Relpta and the flood and
Yes.
the guy who's gonna kill Relpta, and it just
Oh my God. Yes. Okay, go ahead. Start off.
Okay, I mean, it's just me gushing of like, oh my God, like that was the moment that I was like, oh my God, I feel so connected to Relpta. I feel so connected to Cedric. And I genuinely did not know what Cedric was gonna do. I was like, please don't kill her. Please don't kill her. Please don't kill her. And thank God. Of course, it ends on a cliffhanger, that chapter, and then it comes back. And she eats, what is it, Jet? What isn't it?
Jess.
Jess. There you go. She eats him. She's like, I ate him! And I was like, yes, you did! You eat all of them.
Good job.
She was so proud even after meeting all dragons. She was like, I ate the hunter. I ate the hunter. Such an innocent.
And then when Carson comes up, she's like, Hunter, food?
No. But it was also kind of juxtaposed with Cedric just having this bottom half of this torso landing on him. And just that visual picture, I was just like, I just can't imagine half an eaten corpse just landing on me. Like, that would be, that's a massive no for me. I could not cope with that.
Yeah.
Drama.
KFox?
Yeah, that whole situation was, I really enjoyed it because I liked sort of how, I guess going back to the whole power of forgiveness and how Cedric saw himself through Hest's eyes for a lot of it. He saw himself as not competent necessarily, or not good at, especially being outdoors and like doing that sort of thing. And I feel like through sort of seeing himself through different eyes, through through this dragon, this like creature that admires him, even though he did horrible things to it, like I feel like he kind of was able to reinterpret himself through that. And just that whole situation, I don't know, I just really, I loved it, and I loved how it helped Cedric grow. And I feel like that's true for all the relationships with the dragons, but I feel like we got to see it most with Cedric's, just because his motives were so icky to begin with, and it became an actual relationship with a dragon.
Pete?
Oh, I loved it. Just like the whole. There's a Voxer message out there somewhere of just me being like, Cedric, you better freaking not do this. Don't let Eltis die. And then like a few minutes later, oh, okay, it's fine. Good job.
You know, at the end of sorry, go ahead. I thought you were done.
No, I'm done. You're good. I
Okay.
think everybody,
Uh,
Evie kind of.
at the at the end of Dragon Keeper, when Cedric took that blood, and when he heard Tarmin thoughts, it immediately reminded me of that scene from Chronicles of Narnia, where who stays that kid. I think it's in that fifth book,
Oh,
Dawn
he's
Trader
the
book.
dragon.
Yeah, who
Yeah.
stays? He was horrible kid in the beginning, and he becomes a dragon. He steals something, and he becomes a dragon. And
Spoiler
that
alert.
sorry.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, sorry for spoiling it for Chronicles of
It's been out
Narnia.
long enough.
So that brings the change in him. That character, it reminded me of that character arc. So I was sure that we will see some growth in Dragonhaven. So though that Relfta Jess scene was happening, when Hobb stopped at the end of the chapter, I was like, no, no, no. It was supposed to be Cedric's, character change. It was supposed to be his moment. No, no, no. Relfta will should I was sure at the same time. I was nervous when it happened. I was like, yes, yes, I was right. Oh my god, I loved that. I mean, it reflected the same character arc from that Chronicles of Narnia scene.
Mhm.
And
I love that Hobb got us to that point though. Like all of us had said we didn't know. We didn't know if Cedric was going to save her or not. And I think that's just absolutely well done, Hobb, for getting us to that point. Because usually in books, if you've got something like that, it's a very clear right choice, it's a very clear wrong choice. You kind of know which way it's going to go. But in this, I really didn't.
Mhm.
I agree, Bridget. I thought Relfta, oh my god, she's such a sweetheart. Actually, said it doesn't deserve her. Even after coming back from the, that flood scene after what is that? Get After coming back to the boat, but after the relationship with Carson, he changed more. Then I was like, okay, now I accept this relationship.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I think they're like off what Bridget's saying and kind of what I think Evie mentioned before, but the forgiveness of Relptus was like crucial to his changing, to his accepting, to him forgiving himself. Because if the person that we hurt can forgive us, why not forgive what is stopping us from forgiving ourselves? And I think they're going back to society in general. I think society really underestimates how powerful just forgiveness is. And I wish our society would understand that a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay. Are you ready to talk about? You want to cover Leftrine before moving to dragons?
I think
My man.
I mean, he kind of goes hand in hand with police.
He's great.
Yeah, he's honestly. So I thought he was going to be like another Kenneth situation. When I read his first chapter of like, oh, he's he's getting his little wizard wood or whatever cocoon. I'm like, oh no, do we have another Kenneth on our hands? And I was surprised that he didn't even remotely go that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we will definitely talk about school.
What was anybody else surprised when they found out the live ship had legs?
Yes, I loved it.
Because that's what he made the that's the thing that he added on, right?
Mm-hmm. Legs and a tail.
Yeah.
It was so cool. And I just loved how there were hints throughout, and then we get the reveal. And I couldn't work out what they'd done with the wizard one to the point where I was like, it was Wizardwood to start off with, wasn't it? I wasn't making that up, but I had to kind of like go back and be like, oh no, it was Wizardwood. They've just amalgamated something. But when you had that sudden moment and then everything like just clicked into place about why he was so sure that the crew had to be like, you know, they're basically not doing anything. The boat's doing it all themselves. It was so cool. Tarman,
I mean,
I wrote the name down.
Yeah.
yeah, same as Evie. When we are introduced to Leftrine in the first chapter, I thought he's a negative character. I thought, oh my god, I'm going to hate this person, same as I hated Kenneth. But he completely, changed from the next scene itself. Even in that scene where that Chalcedian came to talk with him about the deal, in that itself, I started liking him actually, long before
Yeah.
he met Alice. I really uh, in the first chapter at the end, when Swaj signs the deal along with his wife to stay back in the boat forever, the last line was Swaj wrote his life to Leftrine or something like that. So I thought it was a bad omen that his life is going to be destroyed or something. But it was totally unexpected, his arc. Actually, I really liked him.
Mm-hmm.
Just all the scenes with Tarman being like an absolute actual stick in the mud, where he's like, "Nope, we're not moving, we're not going." It's just like, listen to your boat. It's so funny.
And I was wondering if it was some dragon we have seen in the live ships. So I was happy it was Sasuria. We got that perspective in live ships. I keep wondering if any of those old dragons, old serpents we met are these dragons. Actually, we had that couple of names. That
Mm-hmm.
Marl. Sorry, who is that head serpent? Malkin. Malkin.
Malkin.
Yeah.
Turned into Mercor.
Yeah.
So I really like that. Okay, I'm ready to talk about Sintara and dragons. Oh my god. Let me start with this, please, because I hate Sintara.
So,
Oh my god. I'm so surprised. Taimara keeps confronting Sintara about everything, Sintara's attitude, how much Taimara does. But at the same time, in the next scene, Taimara goes and again helps Sintara getting her food and cleans her, or what is that? Grooming her or grooming her or something.
The scale brushing
Grooming.
and stuff.
Yeah. So I was so surprised. Oh my god, that confrontation happened. Where is the resolution? I want the resolution.
I feel there's just going to be so much more like that. The City of Dragons, there has to be. I feel like we've had a lot of relationship resolutions, but the Sintara-Thymara relationship we have not had, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about that. I really like those two. I think they're just very strong characters, and Sintara is the one that's most like Tintaglia. She's the most like Tintaglia dragon, I feel, because of just how she's
very
so selfish.
She's very. I'm gonna show my horse girl here, but she's very alpha mare. So she's like, yeah, I am the queen. Y'all just, whatever. The keeper dragon that I love, other than Cedric and Relpta, is oh gosh, I'm gonna blank on the name. God, it's
Sylvan Merkel.
Which one?
Sylvan Merkel.
No,
Rapscale? Hebe?
No, not Rapscale. It's gonna bother me.
Just start shooting out facts. What color was the dragon?
Give us the hint.
Gold. It was gold.
Merkel,
Yeah, that was
Merkel and Silver.
Merkel and Silver.
Okay. There you go. Never mind. Sorry. I like so Mercor is just, he seems like a very wise dragon, and is a good kind of balance to Sylvain and the Sylvain seems very much more youthful, but also at the same time like just very observant of everyone. And I just love Mercor. He just he seemed so wise.
Yeah, he's the one who started this all Kelsinger plan
Yeah.
and kept their cool.
And it makes sense because he's Malkin, so it makes total sense.
Yeah,
Wait, he was Malcolm?
that
Yeah.
serpent in live ships.
What?
Malkinstangle, we have seen that group of serpents, the head serpent, Malkinstangle.
Yeah,
That,
no, I know, but like, did I miss it that Mercor is Malcolm?
It was
Caro,
definitely confirmed.
yeah, Caro says that when they were
Stick in the
the
mud.
barge refuses to move in the direction when the barge wants to go, Caro was like, "I am part of the Malkin's tangle," and Caro looks at Merker pointedly. Merker nods, so that is implication of that he is Malkin. And Caro says that this barge that Lex belongs to Sasuria. He is very wise. I am willing to listen to him, and that's when they start following in this other direction.
Well, what I look forward to on reread.
Yeah, I thought it was like directly confirmed.
I was having a really lovely chat because I think Stacey and I were kind of reading at a very similar time together. And we were having a chat about, did we think Malkin was possibly Myrkul, because it felt like, you know, he's the one who has the stories, he's the one that can remember these things the most, and he just has that wise persona. So it just felt like it was. So I got very happy when that was confirmed. I am sad that Cesare didn't quite make it. Like, she sort of made it in a way, but she's not fully her, which was sad. Just thinking about how many in the tangle there were and how few hatched. It was really sad.
What is that other serpent name, second person we have seen in live ships, that POV with starts with S?
Yeah,
Wasn't that
I can't
Caesarea?
remember.
Or was there another one?
Sorry,
Wasn't that Caesarea, or are we talking about
No,
the
There was another one. There was
The
another
sheep-
male. There was three of them. There was Malkin, there was Caesarea, and then there was another male that I think also began with S.
no, female, not Sasuria.
Are you talking about the one that
I
was
thought it was a male.
captive? The one that was captive on Other Island?
See who remembers?
No, that is She Who Remembers. In Ship of Destiny, we got one female serpent POV. We started with starts with S. I forgot the name. Wait.
Death by book.
Sorry.
Usually people would expect that to happen to me.
No, I mean Dragon Haven, Dragon Keeper and Dragon Haven. I pulled out and kept it the front. They fell down and. No.
It's gonna bother me. I'm looking it up.
Shriver. Last Ship of Destiny, last epilogue chapter.
Oh, okay.
What was it?
Shriver. Shreever.
Okay.
I think I've got them confused. I think I thought Cesare was Shiva and Shiva was Cesare. So
No. Sasuria, Shriver is in Malkin's Tangle from the beginning. Later, Sasuria joins them. Those three
Okay.
were together.
Yeah.
And actually, I thought at the end of Ship of Destiny epilogue, Shriver survived. I thought actually when we were getting Sintara's perspective, I thought it was Shriver only, but
That's what
another
I
name
thought
was
too.
mentioned. New name was mentioned.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I thought Sintara was like Shriver or Saskara. I thought she was one of the ones we had followed to the Tangle.
Sintara was too mean to be one of those ones in the tangle. I really like her though. She intrigues me.
Chadia Sasuria was not in Malkin's Tangle in Ship of Magic. It was initially Shriver and Malkin, but later during Matship, Sasuria joins them and become friends with Shriver. That's how I remembered. Okay, anyway, let's move on. I am ready to talk about Hebe and Rascal. You guys start. Meanwhile, I'll adjust my books. It's bothering me.
Random side note about dragon evolutions. Is anybody else like really surprised or like the reveal about the abominations.
Yes, that was something that I was really looking forward to, because at one point, after the oh goodness, I don't remember which book, but I sent like a long Voxer to Derri, and I was like, "Are we ever gonna find out more about
Yep.
Others Island and all of that?" And she was like, "A little bit, kind of," and I was like, "Okay." And so I was really excited whenever that came up. And
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought we got that part about abominations in Fool's Fate. It was said that when dragons and when elderlings and dragons were joined, when I mean it when it goes wrong, those were the abominations, and they were in Other's Island. They were dragons who gone wrong. Something like that. It was mentioned at the end of Fool's Fate.
mhm. I think it
I
was
don't remember
mentioned,
that.
but it didn't mention how it came about. Whereas I feel like it was more directly addressed in, I think, Dragonhaven, where they were like, "Hey, this is what happens whenever elderlings are kind of misguided and go wrong. Like, this is literally something that dragons do
Oh, I
by
thought it
messing
was.
with stuff,
I
I
thought they
thought it
were
was
actual
dragons.
dragons. Like
Yeah,
they
they were.
were. They
I mean,
were.
like messing. Okay,
Yeah, it's like
as per my understanding, it was dragons who has gone wrong, like dragon
Mhm.
offsprings or something like that.
Yeah, the
okay,
dragons have gotten too close to humans, and then theoretically, when two of those dragons that are really close to humans mate, they have this
that's what it
weird
was.
mutated offspring that is an abomination.
I mean, in Fool's Fate, when it was mentioned, my understanding was if humans are marked too strongly, they become elderlings. But if dragons were marked too strongly, if they were influenced by humans, they become those abominations who are in Other's Island.
Okay.
That was my
That's a good way of
understanding.
putting it.
Okay. I thought that it had something to do with the growth not being guided, which could still be, I guess, a thing, since obviously humans aren't guiding that growth in dragons,
Mhm.
whereas with elderlings, they are guiding the growth.
I think we see that with just the Rain Wilders already, of just like the
Mm-hmm.
unguided growths cutting off their time and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But Rapskull and Hebe,
Yes, back to Rapskull
um,
and Hebe.
Yeah.
Rapskull
Yeah.
is too good for this world. He is he's similar to Carson in that he knows who he is, and
Mm-hmm.
he is very confident in himself and assured of himself, and he doesn't care what anybody else says. Yes, he is simple. Like everyone sees him as simple, but he just so
It's in a different
sure.
way, isn't it? It's like he just doesn't quite read the room.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
him and Hebe together. When him and Hebe came back at the end of Dragonhaven, I was like, yes.
You know, I was so sure because from the first day the keepers met dragons itself, Rapskull started teaching flying to Hebe, and we got that their bond. And I was like, when they were lost in flood, I was like, no, Hobb gave us some background of Hebe, some background of Rapskull. She doesn't kill them without informing us. I was like, maybe they flew away. I was so nervous and fingers crossed. I mean, what I was hoping we would find them. I would have been very upset if they're really dead. I'm so happy, so happy. Oh my god, I love Rapskull. He's such a precious being, actually. I mean, I'm glad actually finally Taimara found the value in him. She actually literally misses him. Initially, she was very annoyed about him. I was so surprised. There are two things I did not like in Taimara: his annoyance with Rapskull, and number two, her slut shaming of Jerd. I did not like them, but I am glad actually she found the value of Rapskull.
Yeah, and I think you do see that, like even before he left, like you do see that she just was grateful for him, and she she just enjoyed his positivity. Like she could feed off that when everyone else was always being, well, they were quite grouchy and a bit fighty amongst themselves. It was just so nice to just be with someone who was just so open and truthful and completely themselves, and just delighted to be having a wonderful quest down the river with the dragon. And of course they're going to find Kelsey Grab, because why wouldn't they? Because that's how he thinks. And just that positivity was just beautiful. And I did cry when we got them back, because it's Hobb, so you never really, it wasn't completely tragic enough. Like, you know, Cedric wanted to happen. What happened with Cedric happened. You know, Elise and Lefrin were very happy. I was like, this, we can't have Rapskull and Hebe coming back as well. It was just too happy for Hobb, and then they appeared, and it was like, oh, they're back.
You know, it was too happy. It was too happy for sorry, Pete. It was too happy for Hobb. Even not just that she took care of all negative characters. She took care of Grift. He got a. I mean, okay, let's talk about Griff later. Even when Caro and that Silver Dragon chooses new keepers, they chose the partners of already existing keepers. It was too neatly tied up for Hobb, actually. Okay, go ahead, Pete.
I was gonna say this is kind of just like the no body, no death trope. Like, nah, that wasn't, that death felt too sudden, and I was not convinced that he was dead from the beginning. I was like, nah, no way she does it like this. That I will feel robbed if she does that.
Yeah, he's too important and too, I guess, sort of main character-esque to be killed off page. But one thing that I really did appreciate that Thymara actually said about Rapskull was that within their friendship, he never expected her to be anything. He just kind of accepted her for what she was and who she was. And whenever you meet people like that in life, it really is like they are just gems. They are gems of people, and it's wonderful that you can just you don't have to like put on a face for them. You don't have to act, like you're happy or okay all the time. It's great when you can come across those people who are just so genuinely like accepting. And yes, I love Rapskull so much.
That's the same point I want to make. I know, as Bridget said, it's the same thing with his dragon also. He accepted the Hebe, and whatever Hebe is capable of, he started teaching her. And that's the same case with the Timara. Even Tats was expecting something from him. Rapskull was the only one. I mean, he also says that I want to do it with Timara what I did with the child.
But he was open and honest about it. He was just like, wouldn't it be more fun with you?
Yeah.
He wasn't like, you've got to sleep with me. He was just like, you would be more fun. It's just an open compliment.
He never asks her, he never forces her. He was happy with her company. That's all. Just be with me, I'm happy. Just sleep beside me, I'm happy. Just row with me in my boat, I'm happy. I mean, such a pure soul. I love Rapskull. But actually, I mean, as Bridget and Neeru was saying, it is only 2 books. I'm so worried what Hobb will do in next 2 books. Okay, moving on. You guys go ahead.
Before we go on Rapskull, I just wanted to say that I love that he was Rapskulling, because it's a verb now, right until the end. And like Thymara just wasn't completely comfortable with her wings. I'm trying to find it, but like the way
I'm gonna open them up now.
I'll teach you to fly the same way I taught Hebe. Hebe's wings are also not fine. It's strong in the beginning. I taught her. I'll teach you also.
That was great. Yeah, I can.
And I love that he's just like, that was it. You'll be able to fly. That was it. He was just like, they're beautiful. And it's just like with Hebe, I'll help you exercise them. And of course, you're going to be able to fly. And I just love that we left on that, on his optimism.
Okay. I just want to make one final point before moving on to theories and predictions. Though I hated Grift, I felt sad at the end when he was alone, and when he said that he was dying and that's what motivated him to steal blood. He was wrong to do that. At the same time, I felt sad for him. He shouldn't have died that way, actually.
I think Greft was sort of like the tragic character that I was worried Cedric was going to be. That he had spent his whole life being completely downtrodden, and he just went completely the wrong way about it. Like, he went for, I'm going to seize power. This is my time to shine. I'm going to tell everyone what to do. And once he lost that control and wasn't getting things done his way, he just slowly lost it more, like demanding things. He wasn't listening. There was no point where he was thinking about other people and what they might want or being there for them. It was all selfish and about him.
I agree.
Yeah, it's definitely similar to Thymara. All the keepers really is.
Bye,
When
Emily.
they're
Thank you
out-
for joining.
Bye, Emily. Once they're out from the expectations of society and they're able to make their own rules, they also like I don't know how to say this, but like I felt like Graf was easily susceptible to outside influence.
Yeah.
So, especially if there were no rules, he's just like, oh, well then this thing sounds good, like the hunter guy, like, okay, this sounds good, let's take advantage of this. I've never had, what do you call it?
Power?
Yeah. I just realized that I'm not using my actual webcam. Oh wow, it's been a long day. Anyways, yeah, he's just more susceptible and like kind of there's almost a desperation.
Bye, Bridget. Thank you for joining.
Bye, Bridget. There's almost a desperation to him of like, I've never had this type of opportunity or this type of level of independence or power, so I'm going to take advantage of it to like overtake advantage. I don't know if that's not even a word, but like, does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, he's gonna abuse it because he has it.
Off the rails with that.
Yeah, and I think that's Greft was such an interesting character because like I hated him, but also like his premise, the premise that he had and that Jeff just kind of fed to him was not wrong, right? It was like one of those things that just like, oh yeah, there are no more rules. Like, you're not bound by the rules of the place that you came from now because you are in a completely new situation. You might very well be starting a new settlement. Like, he's not wrong there, but and I see this with a lot of philosophies that are kind of like weird on the internet and stuff, like the red pill philosophy and stuff like that, where it's just like the premise is like, it's not wrong, but the conclusions that they make off of that premise are wild leaps of logic and these crazy grabbings of power and just like these why just everything is like, wait, I don't understand how you got from A to B, because that's like
A to Z. You're like
you're going from A to Z instead of A to B to C. So it was fascinating to see that. Honestly, I thought it was pretty well portrayed of just like, well, you know, this does seem reasonable, but wait, the conclusion is bad. Wait, what went wrong here? And I think with his contrast with Thymara showed that really well, because where he went wrong was throwing out all the rules and not examining them, right? Because I think that it's worth examining the rules that we are bound by in order to figure out why they were made, because we cannot do better than the rules that we have today if we do not understand the reasons that they were made.
Yeah, you can't break the rules if you don't understand why they were there in the first place.
And that was done really well with the whole concept of it felt like the no mating was due to suppression, whereas there were like life-threatening consequences to that as well.
I also felt like with Graft, I didn't really realize it until thinking about Graft and thinking about the whole idea of leadership and what makes a good leader and what doesn't. that really has been kind of a consistent theme for all of Realm of the Elderlings. Like, I didn't really think about it in that context so much, especially like with life ships as much, until thinking about Greft, because like, you know, in the very first Farseer trilogy, there's, you know, the issue with Regal and everything, and then whenever you get into live ship with like captains and the Beantown stuff, and then in I forgot the name of the last trilogy.
Tawny Man.
Yes, Tawny Man. Then it kind of gets into Kettrican a bit more and into Dutiful and everything. And so, like, I guess everything with Greft made me reflect back on all of those previous leaders and compare and contrast them. And it was just an interesting, I don't know, door that opened for me upon reading about Greft.
I like how the more that you explore things, the more kind of themes come up in Hobb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did we cover everything? Let me know if I
Were there any other dragons that we needed to talk about?
That's a loaded question, Anita. I don't think we
I mean, if we cover everything, I want to move on to theories and predictions.
I just want to express my love for Sylv. We've not spoken about her enough.
That's
We spoke
true.
about a little bit in relation to Mercure, but Sylv was just is a beautiful human and a very kind of worthy. I like that she was kind of very much, because she was so childlike, she was looked down on a little bit more like the other keepers. They kind of dismissed her a bit. Yet she gets, although dragons don't have leaders, paired with the dragon leader and is trusted by him. And she has, you already mentioned it, Evie, she has her own wisdom. Like, she was the only one that wanted to look at the stillborn baby before they said goodbye.
How weird is that Greft arranged relationship between Sylv and Harrison or Harrican? Oh my god, that was like creepy.
There's so many things wrong with Greft, and his just like, just gross. It was just such a grossness to that whole concept, and I just hated it so much. And I hate Tats for going along with it. Tats has got a lot of groveling, a lot of making up to do. He is on the list at the moment of dickish characters.
Listen, it's just a giant conservation program, so you got to have that breeding aspect. You know, that's what they're just trying to do.
I'm sorry, we're not getting into eugenics, please no.
Exactly.
It's a dangerous road.
Anywho.
Okay, go ahead, Chadia.
Yeah, no, Tats was. I wanted more from Tats. Like, I'd like what you were saying, Chattie. I wanted more, just like him making up for the douchebaggery that he was just kind of like going along with Greft's plan. Again, we have 2 books left, so I think he has plenty of time to redeem himself. Now that Rapskull's back, it'll be interesting to see if what happens between him and Rapskull and Thymara and that whole thing. We'll see if the
Team Rapskull.
I do think it's interesting how Tats is kind of representative of the tattooed people from Baintown coming to the Rain Wilds to try and start anew, and they're still excluded in society instead of, you know, included. Where, you know, you have these 2 groups of people. The Rain Wilds are still very like the Beantown people exclude them because of how they look, but yet they're still excluding the tattooed people because they are not like them. So it's like 2 wrongs do not equal a right, people. So
a lot of work to be done with this society.
Chadia, if you are asking my opinion, Tax is not Rapskull. That's all I can say. I mean, I think he would have been willing to wait for Thymara if it wasn't pressure from other keepers. I think he was also worried that other keepers pursue Taimara and maybe she will choose them. Or, I mean, no tell. I think she is also pressuring her because she doesn't want to lose her. He falls somewhere in the middle for me for now. He's not my favorite character. At the same time, I don't hate him as much as other characters.
I do wish that he could accept Saimar's friendship as just friendship instead of being like, "Well, I've been your friend this entire time, so you should sleep with me." Uh,
Mhm.
just like
Well,
friend zoning or whatever. It's like, well, I I've been we've been friendly together, so you gotta date me, thing.
I didn't really get that impression. I got the impression that he had been holding a candle for her for a while. That he was friends with her, but he still like was attracted to her even from the very beginning, and it wasn't just like
Right.
and
No, I get that, but like,
Yeah.
but that he,
There was an owing sense to all of Tat's
Okay.
conversation.
Yeah,
Like, there
yeah,
was- like everyone said, Rapska was the only one who didn't want anything from Samara. Tats, he appears on the surface like a nice person. And, fine, prove me wrong at the moment, but Tats, currently, you've got a lot of proving to do. But he...
nice guy.
And yeah, exactly. And actually, because I went back to try and make sure I'd got everyone's like dragon and names. And so I went back to the very first scene in Dragon Keeper where they choose their dragons. And then there's a little bit further on from that, Cedric is asking Thymara questions. And first of all, Greft answers for her and gives her permission. And then Tats does it. And Thymara basically shoots them both down and is like, can you stop answering for me? I do not belong to either of you. So there's that controlling level from both of them. They're like little, there's a saying, like people like, I can't remember the saying anymore, but they were very that. If anyone knows what I was thinking, then it was that. But it was very much like they felt like she belonged to them and they were sort of waiting for that. And then it obviously moves on. And I have a very angry note that I've kept in my book. That way is the camera there, where I've written it's a full-on confrontation where Thymara basically is like, I'm happy to kiss you and cuddle you, and he's like, you are teasing me, and quite frankly, if you're not willing to risk having sex with me, then this is over. And one, what's wrong with kissing and cuddling? And two, she's just literally told you that she might die, and you're okay with that. So I've written, Thymara is a queen. Tats needs to be shoved overboard by my fist. So that is...
I'm saying this obviously sarcastically. Doesn't matter. Still had sex. So what does it matter if the girl dies? Doesn't matter. Still had
Exactly.
sex. So.
Yeah.
We got his fun.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. Like that conversation kind of wigged me out a little bit of just like, dude, what are you doing, Tats? Chill.
Yeah, where he's like, yeah, I'd be willing to risk that, which is bold of him to say because it's not him who's
no risk to him.
No, he loves her so much he's willing to kill her by having sex.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, someone thinks a lot of themselves. What kind of a good time are we talking here?
Yeah, I agree, Miru. He thought it's win-win, but he doesn't get to decide that. I have seen an Instagram reel last night only. One guy complains that it is very difficult to date girls these days. I am emotionally available. I go to gym. I do everything. I pay. I get gifts, everything. But still, it's not enough. So for that, another guy responds by saying, we are raised to believe that women are prized. That you have all these. Cheap rules that cheat codes actually. If you met this code, like buy a gift or go to gym, you will win this prize. But you so to get this prize you're doing all that. But even though it doesn't mean that women, you will finally get this prize. They can say no irrespective of what cheat codes you follow. That exactly, this whole situation reminds me of that.
Unlock, okay?
Look, dating isn't Stardew Valley, guys.
It's a relationship. You talk to each other about what each other are comfortable with and respect each other's choices and grow together. And I feel if we're having a difficulty with this conversation, think about how difficult it must be for like asexual people to have this conversation about relationships can still be fulfilling without the need
It
for sex.
doesn't matter whatever you do, they are people, they have right to say no. It's their choice. Why is it so difficult to understand? I mean,
Yeah.
for some people it's surprising that they have choice actually. How can they say no? Because they are not interested.
No means no, everyone.
Respect the no.
Yes, agree, Chadia.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was very
Yeah,
well
definitely.
written, but
Yeah.
that doesn't make him a more enjoyable character.
I love that Hobb
Yeah.
does that though. I love that Hobb
Yes,
makes me so angry
me
about
too.
her characters.
Yeah.
So, Evie, please don't say anything. You can laugh at our theories and predictions, guys. Let's go chat your theories and predictions, please. Chatty.
Okay. So obviously I'm hoping that they start developing this kingdom and we start seeing elderlings manifesting. And I'm interested to see what's going to happen in terms. They've been very much in their own little bubble or cocoon on this quest the whole time, and the only outside world that we see are the pigeon people who we've not mentioned yet, who like
Yes.
open each chapter. And then I love them, their little notes, they were so cute. And then you're kind of getting is it her sister? There was like a or sister-in-law, and like it was Cedric's sister.
Cedric's
Yeah. And they were like, where are they? Please give information. We've lost them. And then like Hest is like, I do not owe them money. You cannot bill me for their debt. And there were just little glimpses into the outside world. And so I want to know what's going to happen when the worlds kind of come back in touch and collide. And I'm scared for Elise. I'm hoping that she still gets to be her own person, and certain laws don't mean. I don't know how difficult divorce is in Bingtown, but I'm scared for Elise.
KFox.
So since I did technically read this a while ago, I'm afraid to make predictions, but I will say that I'm curious to see if Selden comes back, because that's one thing that I definitely don't remember. But other than that, I don't want to make any predictions or anything in case I accidentally like guess something and give something away. I don't know.
Pete.
I think Elise and Malta are going to be interesting, like people to watch next book. Like like what Chattie was saying about them coming back to society, back to like Treehog and Castlerig and everything is going to be really interesting. I think it'd be really interesting plot wise if only Elise or only Cedric went back. It'd be make everything a lot more dramatic. But I do think that I feel like when they get back, Hest is already going to have divorced her and already like either moved on to some other sham marriage or something, or like he's not even going to be there and just have a note being like, oh yeah, we're not like he already did the whole thing of like, I don't owe any of the debts that they incur. So he's already kind of cut her off. I'm interested to see the disappointment of the city, right? Because we had this whole thing where Mercor, I keep confusing him with Melkor, and he's not Melkor because that's like the evil demon dude from Tolkien, and that's definitely not the
Merkel.
Mercor is like the thing with Mercor and Sitar and all of them just being like, we're gonna overhype Kelsingra for everybody. I think Centaura is going to be like the primary like conduit for that disappointment for people, like especially like Thamara being like, what the frick, you promised us so much and this is all we get. Like there's structures and stuff like that, but it's not going to be as much as they wanted because it did seem like there was a significant amount of like rotting stuff. So that'll be interesting. Elise is going to be slightly frustrated, but
I'm
Before
excited for that. That's one of the things I love. That's like one of my favorite tropes, like watching like a struggling or like failing business like resurrect itself. I'm keen for that.
Before getting to theories, I want to talk about the pigeon people, Eric and Etosi.
Yes.
I completely missed the point that Etosi was a woman. I didn't remember that even that audiobook narrator's voice being woman's voice. Suddenly, in the middle of Dragon Haven, one of the letters I listen, it came across as a woman's voice. Then I realized, oh my god, there is this chemistry
Mhm.
going on between those two. I mean, it was so that even through letters, Hobb did a really great job between those two, and I really like the information about these Cedric sisters sending them money and to keep at one of that inns. Every information we got, I really like that. Very well done, actually. Those
Oh,
letters part.
the boat. They sent a boat up the river with pigeons, and we never saw what happened to them. We never saw if they actually like got there or anything. I forgot about that for a second. I'm interested to
I
see
don't
because
even remember the sent boat. They were
yeah,
they were
you
proposing.
would,
No, no. Letter came that they were proposing to send boats, but with
okay.
pigeons. I didn't realize they actually sent it.
Oh, okay. I think I
I
was
thought,
drawing the conclusion that they did.
yeah, I thought they did too, but I don't really remember.
That came like right before Hest was like, I will, as of the first day of the golden moon month or whatever, I will not owe you guys anything. But yeah, no, I thought they were just the pigeon people were just really good friends. And then
Yeah.
it was like, oh yeah, so my parents are hounding me about finding a husband. Oh, mine are hounding me about finding a wife. I was like, everything's coming
Okay.
together.
Coming to my theories, Hest is the only negative character remains so far. So I think we will see him again. Maybe he will travel to Trehag or Kasarik, or when Leftrin and Alice come to Trehag or Kasarik to update this Rainwell Council, maybe they come across, or Hobb just might introduce other negative characters.
Possibly.
Other than council who wants to evacuate Kelsingra, I don't see any other negative people. I mean, dragons might surprise us. Silver dragon looks vicious.
Spit.
Even
I will
so
also say, like, Hest is totally going to sell off her collection.
Yeah. I wonder if we're going to get like a legal battle, and like, because I feel like the Rain Wilds would like benefit from her scrolls and her work and her lore. Now they have word that the dragons are starting to thrive, so maybe we'll see
and
something. Maybe it's part of the divorce settlement.
I
She
do
wants
think
it to go to them.
I do think Seldin and Malta will appear. I think Blood of the Dragons, in the meaning dragon's blood, will help make elderlings. So that's what it represents. And 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 I will not say anything spoilery, but after Ship of Destiny, I was so heartbroken, and I read some threads. So same as how Althea and Paragon appeared, I think we see some characters, but I don't know how they play into this picture. And at the same time, I'm hoping to see Amber full.
Oh yes.
Yes.
I don't know if we will, but I'd love to see Amber Fall again. I also want to see Tintaglia. I also want to see Tintaglia come back. I don't want her and Centaura to have a go at each other, because I feel like
That's
Centaura
a
would be like,
great point.
Mom, you abandoned us. Obviously, she's
That's
not
a
going to do
great
that.
point Nero is making, actually. Sorry, Chatty. I did not
That's
think
right.
about it. Hest will take advantage. His wife, who was one of the founders of Kelsingra, he wants to become rich. There is definitely
Yeah.
Hest will take advantage of that. Oh my
I
god.
wonder
Great point, Nero.
if Chalcedon are going to try and get some sort of handle on the city.
Yeah, with
Chatty, go
Lefton and
ahead. I
everything.
interrupted you. You were talking about Intaglia. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just being silly. I was just saying I feel Centaura could just be like, Mom, you abandoned us. But like she wouldn't actually do that because they don't see it in that light. But I kind of see it a little bit like that. I feel like Centaura is just very much her teenage daughter. She just reminds me the most of Tintaglia's like dragon mindset.
I want Intaglia to come and put Sintara in her place.
Mom just like got a new boyfriend and decided to jet.
Yeah, she did. Doesn't care about her kids anymore. She's moved into like a castle. She went
Evie,
traveling
you're
in the
muted.
north.
Mom, you came out for we went out for cigarettes and never came back.
She went out for cows.
By the way, hold on,
You know,
just want to
like
shout
typical.
out my shirt.
I can't really tell what's on it.
The Fool, Night Eyes, fits.
Aw, that's cool.
And it's
I
embroidered.
can't believe you didn't talk about your shirt, Evie.
Where did you get said shirt? Do a plug.
At Etsy.com.
Oh.
It's the link's in the private chat.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Sorry.
I found that.
it's okay. Same as typical teenager, Sintara will say, "Mom, you got new boyfriend and you forgot about us."
It's good.
I'm excited.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Alice won't be able to corner him with adultery that she has minded her. No, not necessary. Cedric might help her. He might willing to witness.
I think Cedric will definitely help her because, like,
Yeah.
just that realization of he's not holding Hest sacrosanct. What's that word? As that idealistic version of him anymore. Like, he's definitely going to help her get out of that because I think he's come to accept her relationship with Leftrin. I think. It'll be interesting. I will say I did really like reading these back to back almost.
Yes.
I think I had like one book between them. Excuse me. I think that was good and not having it like a month apart. So I'm never going to do that with the next two as well.
Yeah, we'll have City of Dragons first Sunday of May.
Okay, I'll read both of them that weekend.
Just doing City of Dragons or City of Dragons and Board of Dragons?
Only City of Dragons. I asked everyone in Discord if you want both or one. Most of the people chose different live shows.
Okay.
Because I
only
think
Dragons.
Derri confirmed City of Dragons is a story in itself. And
Yeah,
then Blood
Derri
Dragons.
Derri confirmed. That's why I finalized it.
Whereas it is one story. This is one story.
Yeah, compared to other books, I think it's only around 400 plus pages. Less than 500 for sure.
It's pretty thin.
Yeah.
It's actually probably the thinnest of the bunch, I think.
Yeah. Oh, 420 were on the epilogue, so yeah. And
Yeah,
then Blood
definitely.
is.
So it will be on first Sunday in May, City of Dragons. So
And
plan
Blood 534, so that's not too bad either, considering Hobb.
Yeah.
Just imagine if they were one book like they were originally intended.
Mm-hmm.
So, I after Fool's Fate, I was like, I was so sad that we will not read Fizz for 4 books. But now, after starting Dragon Keeper, I was like, who Fizz? I don't even remember. As much as I like him, I'm all right actually with these characters. So I really liked Rain Wilds. It was surprising to me actually because I went in with the low expectations. I finally understand why Evie in her tier ranking rated Rain Wilds higher than Tawny Man.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Oof.
Okay.
We'll have to see if that holds out.
Ooh,
But
that is
she rated life higher than Rain Wilds, which I will my ranking will be opposite.
Wait, what?
You ranked live ships higher than Rain Wilds, right?
Yeah. So my thing is, it's in the full trilogy, live ship, Farseer, Rain Wild, Tawny Man.
oh interesting.
Wow.
Okay. See, I very much feel, although they're separate trilogies, I very much feel Tawny Man is just so fed by farcier. Like I consider it very much. I just, you couldn't have Tawny without Farsi. I know you could have Farsi without Tawny, but I remember when I finished Farsi, it didn't feel finished. So it just, the two together, just, yeah. I'm gonna rambling now. I'm gonna stop.
I loved Farsi, but I also loved Tawny Man, but it was always behind Farsi. Farsi, Tawny Man, Live Ships for me. But Rain Wilds is definitely above Live Ships. Depends on how City of Dragons and Blood of Dragons go. It might be Tawny Man.
Yeah.
Mine's just the constant spinning of all of them. Don't make me choose.
I think right now Tawny Man's top for me. I think the ending and how it all wrapped up, I think she did really well, and I love really good endings, really a lot. So like that, just everything coming together was just so good.
It's my favorite book, Fool's Fate. The culmination of so much emotion.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Any other final thoughts?
I was gonna say, so first week of May, I already put it in my calendar.
Good.
I won't be here for that one because my son has his first Holy Communion, so we have big family party.
Oh, nice.
Nice. But at the same time, we are sad we'll not be here.
I'll watch. It's fine. You won't miss me because what I'm going to do, obviously, is I'm going to watch it like it's live. But then you'll get 10 billion comments as I respond to everything.
KFox, next time you join, I'll say KFox with Sus.
Exactly, my co-star. She is just being so needy. Pratchett is right over there being a very good boy.
Pratchett doesn't care about us. Sus is the one who wants her.
This one, she wants to be the star of the show. She wants her own YouTube channel. Where'd she go? Oh.
Okay, guys. If you are done, chat. You also, if you don't have any last minute thoughts, we'll end here. It's been 2 hours. We'll have that half an hour break before Alan's Jeopardy. So
perfect timing.
It's a great chat. Thank you all for being wonderful. I think this is one of my favorite discussions. So thank you all for joining me. Evie,
Thank you,
Chattie,
Anita.
Pete, KFox, and everyone in the chat.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me on.